Welcome to In Real Time, where we as Heights Church are inviting you in for real conversations about leading people, organizations, and change in the new normal. We're hoping that our real discussions about our church's journey will help you as you reimagine and rebuild yours. Sweeney here, and welcome to In Real Time, where we're having real conversations about leading people, organization, and change. Today we're into part 2 of our conversation about navigating responsibilities and expectations from my boss. Sometimes this is a little bit of an uncomfortable conversation. So we talked about this really in a healthy way last time. But in part 2, we're really going to dive more into what happens when it's not so comfortable and it's a little more uncomfortable and unclear and you're feeling vulnerable. Well, we want to give you some insights about how you can work from a senior lead's perspective, a staff perspective, and really help you navigate that. So I have a couple of co-hosts with me today. So why don't the two of you introduce yourselves?
I'm Jennifer Alessio, and I serve as the children's pastor here at Heights Church.
Very cool. Also sit on our management team as
I do.
well. Wonderful. Very good. And you?
I am Justin Orr. I am our life groups pastor, college young adults pastor, and then, the smattering of other things that we do around here.
That's right. That are in your job description.
Absolutely in my job description. Hospitality and all those other fun things.
That's good. That's important to know.
Yeah.
All right. So what do we need to know about part 1? What did we cover? There were 2 points really.
Part 1 is super important. The first one is, are you clear on what your job description is?
Yeah.
Like, do you know what that job description is? Like, I know what my job description is because I wrote it.
Yeah.
So
it sounds like a basic question, but we know
And I wrote mine.
statistically.
Right, exactly. I think we all did.
I know, and that was on purpose.
It was, what do you do around here?
Yes.
And so we wrote those lists of things that we do.
Exactly.
And so I am really clear about that. So that's the first piece of it is, are you clear? Because if you're not, you need to get there. Because that will be incredibly helpful in the rest of these conversations.
Yes.
The second piece is, if you're not, then what? How do you manage the tensions?
You're not clear.
If you're not clear on the expectations of your responsibilities, how do you do that? As well as managing the tension of what is healthy and what is a necessary sacrifice.
Yeah.
Because sometimes we all have different expectations about what those things are based on our capacity as leaders, based on the needs around us, all of those different things that play a factor in that.
Yeah.
And so, I think those are pretty much the 2 questions, right?
That's good. Yeah. We also, I think just one more thing I would add to it is we talked about when you do sit down in a healthy environment to have that conversation with a senior leader or a senior leader sitting down with a staff and having this conversation, what is it that the two of us are looking for from the other?
Yeah.
And I'm not going to say what those were because we covered it in part 1. So you can go back and watch that, and I highly recommend it because then part 2 will make that much more sense. So Great stuff there. So let's move on to part 2, and we're going to be talking now about what to do when it's not clear and it's actually uncomfortable and we're feeling more than vulnerable. Yeah, it's a difficult place to be. So, when I would say first off, right here off the bat, I am assuming that we're talking to healthy senior leaders.
Okay.
All right. So, and I would define that as I used to coach football, and I was the quarterback coach, and the head coach of the team would tell the team repeatedly, past the 3rd game of the year, he would say, if you don't know what to do, don't you ask me, you just should know what to do in a game. And so don't ask me. He specifically said, do not ask me. And then if they asked him in a game, he would scream at them on the sideline. I watch this happen all the time. I quickly pulled my quarterbacks aside and I said, listen, if you don't know what to do, I don't care when it is. It could be the last play of the last game. You better ask me because every play counts.
Yeah.
Don't you dare go on that field and not know what to do. Yeah. I'm here to help you. I'm here to equip you and make sure you do know. Healthy leaders should want their staff to ask them for
They should.
clarity. That's where they should be. And if you're a leader who doesn't want that, then I would challenge you to rethink whether you are actually healthy in your expectations of your staff. I think that a healthy leader is going to realize we all have questions, because here's what I know. Senior leaders have a lot of questions, and they get to ask them, and they feel perfectly right in asking those questions. And as they should. And so that's a back and a forth, and it's so important. And so just this is an expectation of communication and a team. So don't grow weary, be patient of asking these and answering these questions. So it's an ongoing conversation. It's not a one-time conversation. So healthy leaders want you to ask. That's what I would say. And I'm going to assume that in this scenario, although we might touch on the other if we have a chance. Okay, so as we're talking about this, I know that you offered something right off the bat that what do you do? What would somebody do right off the bat if they're in this situation before they even approach their senior lead?
I think they should think about, what do I know about my current role and expectations? Do I have a copy of the job description? Was I given a written copy? What am I currently functioning as in my role? Is this what I think my boss is expecting of me? Is there a discrepancy? And is it realistic for me? And to think through those things. And then to think, what would be the best situation for me and for the organization? Think through that. And then also I would say, do I have any emotions? Do I have anything I'm angry about? Do I feel that I've been hurt or mistreated? And even to consider talking about that with a coworker or a trusted friend. Maybe not a coworker, maybe a mentor. A leadership mentor would be a lot better. Coworker could be problematic.
Agreed.
Someone that understands you and understands your organization and can give you some honest feedback, and to think through those things before you approach your boss.
That's wisdom. Wisdom would help you with that, because our emotions run raw.
They do.
And I've been in this situation where I was very unclear. I felt very vulnerable, and I honestly I didn't know what to do. I didn't actually reach out to, I mean, the truth of it is, the ugly part is I reached out to staff, which was not good.
I
should have reached out to people outside of our team at the time. This was years ago, but I didn't. I reached out to staff because those were my close friends. And that was not good, because then I created an environment where they were now taking up my offense. And that wasn't fair to them. And it wasn't fair to my senior lead either. And so, as you would guess, it didn't end well. And so I wouldn't recommend that at all. But if you can get somebody, because our emotions are running raw, get somebody that does care about you and can offer good advice, then that is really helpful.
I think one of the things I immediately have to do is I got to take a time out myself. If I'm feeling that unclear, I need to start doing some self-evaluation in the midst of this. Am I bringing some other baggage into this moment that I'm stacking whatever this is on top of the emotional drama that I'm feeling?
And that's really
that's really not the response that you deserve or that I need to even have on this issue. Because I know I'm wired that way, that if I'm carrying a heavy load with whatever the situation is, I tend to bring it with me. It tends to arrive in other places. And so I got to go through that. Am I doing that? Is this really one of those scenarios that I need to take offense to, or am I just offended easily today? I think self-evaluation and asking those questions is super important. Also, I think it's the idea of checking your heart and your attitude. That's really what I mean by that. It's just, I got to check myself. I'm going to say, before I wreck myself, before I do something I will regret later on and go, gosh, I can't take those words back or that statement back. And I just don't want to do that anymore.
And aren't we, well, I'm going to say I'm guilty of taking my past experience and bringing it into the present. And making the assumption that this person is going to respond the way my negative experience or my boss negatively responded to me last time.
Right.
And that's not that's not fair.
No.
It's
we
not
need
fair.
to we need to give each person a chance.
Right.
They're a totally different person, totally different scenario,
Yeah.
and give them a shot. We need to give them that shot. They deserve that.
That is
We would want that.
smart.
That's treating someone else the way we would want to be treated.
Yeah. I think that might be in the Bible. It could
It
be.
is.
We might need to look that up. That's good. Okay, so reaching out to counsel, love it.
Yep.
Asking for clarification in regards to checking our hearts, because it is easy for us to pick up an offense and then make this whole thing even more. And maybe I should be a little offended, but I can then take that and make it way bigger than it needs to be. I really need to get an assessment of what I'm dealing with. And if I'm wounded, I need to understand the wound. Yeah, and that's really important. If I'm going to actually get to a resolve, and I think that's the important thing here, right? I think the goal for this is getting to resolve.
Yeah.
Right? I'm not going into that office. I don't think the senior lead or the staff should go into that office to tell anybody off. If
No.
that's our goal, I guarantee you we're going to meet it. That's a terrible goal. Our goal is to resolve the situation. That's what you want. If that's our goal, I think we're going to more likely get there.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So what attitude are we going in with? Important. This word has come up on the last few podcasts. I think it's really important.
Yeah.
Just keeps coming up. What's that word?
Humility.
Humility. It's so
Humility.
important.
Yeah.
Humility.
Yeah. Wow. Yeah.
I always connect humility and teachable. Those are two that I always connect together.
I think they go together.
They kind of do, because I always think to myself, well, am I teachable here? Like, am I willing to follow directions, or am I willing to do something different or new
Yeah.
that I'm not necessarily comfortable with? And that is a big part of being humble. And
Yeah.
so I love the dynamics of those two words together personally.
Yeah.
Because there's something about a teachable person is that you almost always a humble person. You know what I mean?
You're right. Yeah.
That's just been my experience. Is they're just
I don't know how you can be teachable without humility.
right.
I mean,
You
there's
can't.
because
You'll
you're
think you
saying
know it
I
all.
don't know it all. Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And what do? I don't know how to fix this.
Yeah.
I'm not sure what to do here.
Yeah.
So
And I can see through scripture, there's this other word called appeal.
Yeah.
We see this in Joseph. We see this with Daniel. We see this throughout scripture, people who came to Jesus. And you may say, well, my boss isn't Jesus. No, but maybe they are Nebuchadnezzar. Maybe they are Pharaoh, I don't know. But it's this word appeal.
Potiphar.
Potiphar, yeah. It's the word appeal, where we're not going in demanding.
you need to
We're
give me this.
appealing for the resolve.
Yeah.
Right? That's it. And I know as a senior lead, when somebody comes in, and of course it happens. I mean, I know I've had these conversations with both of you and everybody else on our staff where there was something that was unclear. And as we approach it, first of all, because we're in a relationship, I already know I can trust you. And so we both are believing the best. So that core value serves us well. If that's
It
not a
does.
core value of your organization, you might want to think about it. It serves us well. It's the basis of these conversations.
Yeah,
but because of that, I know we're going to get to resolve. We both want that. We're going to get there. And so we are appealing to one another. And I find that even from my position, I know that a lot of senior leads don't really probably like the word appeal, but I find that it works best. I don't think most people like being demanded of. I think we all need to be appealed to for whatever we're being asked to give. And let's face it, we're all being asked to give a lot. And there's nothing easy about what we do most days. And so I think it's a sign of respect and
It is.
a healthy relationship. So yeah.
Can we give some clarity? What do you mean when you say appeal? Can you give us like an example or something like that? Because
Yeah.
I mean, I know what you're saying, but
Yeah.
there may be folks out there listening and watching going, okay, what? Can you explain that to me? Because
Yeah.
appeal in my mind might be, I'm going to tell my boss exactly what I need them to do for me.
Yeah.
That's how I'm going to appeal to them.
Right. Yeah.
I don't know if that's
Which
the
is
case
not
or not.
what
So
you're
I just,
talking about.
What
Sounds
do you,
more like demanding.
Sounds like demanding.
But again,
Yeah.
what do you mean when you say that?
Yeah,
'Cause
it's a good question.
It's language. It's a funny thing.
I think so. There's a good clarification or a phrase. Let me put it this way: when somebody comes in, if somebody were to come in and say something along these lines. Listen, I'm unclear about my job, for whatever reason. I want to meet the goals.
I want to do a great job.
I want to meet the mark, but I'm muddy as to how I can do that. I've actually written it down here. Can we talk about how I can best meet the expectation? That's an appeal. How do I not respond to that in a really good way? Yeah. I want to meet you on this.
That's great.
But also for me to be able to say, hey, how come you're not doing your job? That to me is more of not
a scolding.
That's a scolding. That's not an appeal. It'd be, I think as a senior lead, it's more like, hey, maybe the marks aren't being met. But talk to me about it. What's going on? Because I know you and I know you're invested. I know you're passionate. You're an owner. So what's happening? How can I help you? Well, that's a different place. I think it's a different attitude, shows humility, and it shows a desire to appeal.
It shows respect.
Yes.
Yeah. Does that help?
Totally does.
Define that?
I think I also can see it from the other direction because I know that in my role as your staff person, I have seen you come to me and say, come here, I need to talk to you. And it's never, he's like, calm, you always, it's not bad.
He always says that
it's
right
not
away.
bad.
He's always
Right?
like,
Yeah.
no, it's good.
It's not
Promise
bad.
you, it's good.
But then he'll go, hey,
Yeah.
I need your help with something is always how you appeal to me.
Yeah.
Will you help me with this?
Yeah.
And I know immediately at that point, you're clarifying something you need from me in the process. I don't take threat to that. It's not like you're scolding me. I don't feel like, oh my gosh, I let Craig down. I'm a terrible person. I don't hear that at all. Yeah. It's, hey, it's just realigning the tires. It's what Pastor Tim always says around here.
Yeah.
But it is an appeal to us in a way that's not threatening at all.
Yeah.
At least I've experienced it that way.
Yeah. I appreciate that.
On more than one occasion. Yeah. So from a senior lead, if you're talking to your people, like your staff, hey, can you help? I need your help with this. I need this tweak to take place in meetings, or I need this from you. Can you help me with that? Absolutely.
Yeah.
I mean, that's the way you do it. And it's the reciprocal piece of it. So
you could just say, stop that.
You totally could. You totally
could. It has
could.
a different feel.
It does.
It does.
Yeah.
And what it does to the relationship, if you just came to me and said, stop it, I would feel there's a safety thing of, okay, I've just offended him. I have to be far more cautious about what I say, don't say. So I've put up a barrier about vulnerability, honesty, relationship. I've become more cautious in how we talk about these things. And that's not the goal. The goal for us is to get, to find common ground, to do this stuff together, to be that team. Like the football illustration, we need the ability to come to you without fear of you're going to get told to stop it.
Yeah.
Or knock it off, or you're terrible, or you're bad at this.
Yeah.
And so I know that that's a big deal for me as a staff person of what I need from my senior lead is that honesty, the humility, and the vulnerability to be able to say those things.
It's good. Yeah. Cause I don't want when I say, hey, can you come here?
No.
Meaning, let's have a conversation in my office, and mainly it happens in there because we don't have any other
don't have any other place.
to talk.
That's the only spot we got. That's
So
quiet.
it's like, come to my office. It's kind of private. You
Sound
can't
machine
hear
is on.
everybody outside the door.
Right.
So, but I don't want it to feel like we're coming to the principal's office because that's not it at all. I don't want you guys to feel like it's eggshells. I want you to go, cool. What are we going to talk about? This is going to be great.
Yeah.
But that's because we have relationship. We do trust each other. And this is how you earn that trust with one another. You can have the difficult conversations because we do.
Of course.
And you guys have had it with me.
Of course.
You guys have been able to tell me those things. We didn't say, hey, we need more clarity for you about some of these things, especially in pandemic times. We've had that conversation throughout that. But I knew where it was coming from. It didn't make me feel insecure. Yeah, and I think that's where the team we shouldn't be making each other feel insecure. No. I realize that's not what a lot of people have, but that should be our goal. I would hope. Yeah, and I know as a senior lead, that's on me to create that environment, but it's also on staff to respond to that when I offer that.
I agree.
Environment
exactly.
Yeah,
and Can I just say, if you work in an environment where your senior lead does not lead in that way, as a staff member, you can create that with your coworkers.
That's true.
You're not without
point.
power.
Yeah.
You can choose to treat your coworkers with respect.
Yeah.
And you do have power.
Yeah.
You have power on how you respond.
Yeah. Yep. No, that's really, really good. Okay, so I think the next thing on here, one of the last things we'll talk about in regards to this, what to do, again, navigating responsibilities and expectations with your supervisor, your boss. What do you do when you're not clear, when it's probably a little uncomfortable? You want to go through what is written. What does your job description say? Hopefully you have something. If not, then now's the time to sit down and talk it through. You need to start writing it down. I wrote down a couple of things here that I think would be great for people to ask. Ask, is there anything missing that needs to be added? That allows your senior leader then to go, oh, I was thinking about something. It's not on the list, but I do have this expectation. Okay, that's important because, sometimes you just miss stuff. I do have an expectation. I didn't put it on the list. I'm sorry. But I do expect this of you. So let's talk about it.
Yeah.
That's important. And then, are there specific ways you want this responsibility accomplished? Because sometimes I need you to do it a certain way. And there's a reason for that, and I'll explain it. And it usually involves the person you're going to have to be doing this with.
Right.
Sometimes, many times, I'm just like, no, I don't care how you do it because you're a good leader. I just want you to get it accomplished any way you feel like would be the best way to do it.
In a healthy manner. Yeah.
In a healthy manner. So another question is, do you care if somebody else helps me accomplish it? I remember going in, I was meeting with my pastor, G.L. Johnson. Love this man. He was wonderful. He's since passed away. But I had this really big job description at this church. And I went in and I just asked him a few questions. What on this list are most important to you? Because there's a lot here, but what is it you need that you really think are most important? And so he listed out, those things that were most important. And I said, okay, great. I want to accomplish all of it. But I said, here's another thing. What on this list do I have to do? Because I plan on equipping other people and building teams and delegating, as I should. What if I hand something off to somebody, but that's an expectation you want me to do? So I need to know what that is on the list. And one of the first things he goes, well, you're a speaking pastor here, so whenever I ask you to teach on Sundays and preach, you can't hand that off. I'm like, that makes sense.
Right.
I get that.
Total sense.
That was a duh, of course, but he said it and I'm glad he did, and there were two other things on the list and they were totally get it. And everything else I said, so if I build teams to do the other things, you're good with that? Yeah, I'm good with that. He was good with it. But I got to be honest with you, that's not how he led most of his ministry. And so I think the fact that I even asked the question helped him to realize, Craig's going to do that. And I'm going to be good with it. He probably never really thought about it before then. But he thought about it after, and he was totally good with it. It just created a really good environment, so him and I had right expectations.
Yeah.
So, again, do you care if someone else helps me accomplish it? And I think these are really good questions that really don't put senior leaders on their heels. And it just offers, I think, an environment for a good, honest conversation. Hopefully that would be, really healthy and good. Any thoughts about that? If you don't, that's totally fine. Any other further thoughts in regards to that difficult conversation?
I think just what we've already highlighted and the importance of humility and checking our own hearts and having an idea yourself, what would be a good outcome for me? What is my goal? And is this a goal that's going to help promote the mission of the organization? Which is really tied to checking your heart as well.
I think one last thing I would say too is that I know this happens for us. We'll come in and we'll have a conversation, and I know even now as we're really dispersing a lot of Pastor Cheryl's executive duties as she is retired, some of that conversation is, okay, this is now on you, but hey, let's stay in contact about this because this may be too much, but let's keep talking. So we're holding it lightly. The expectation is there,
wise.
but we're going to continue to talk about it to make sure that this is something that can be accomplished in this way over the long run. But right now, we still are feeling it out.
Yeah.
So I think that's also a healthy place to be. So the last thing here is just be curious. Once you get your clarification, you can know what you know. I'd say get curious and do your absolute dead level best to accomplish your expectations and responsibilities, and just be the best teammate that you possibly can. And I think when you do those kind of things, senior leaders look at that and say, man, I love the effort. I love the passion. I want to reward that. That's somebody I want on my team.
Yeah.
So, okay, good stuff. Well, I think we are going to wrap this one up. Part 2 of Navigating Responsibilities, Expectations from My Boss. What to do when it's not clear or maybe even a little uncomfortable. The challenge would be get to clarity about your expectations and responsibilities. Thanks for having a real conversation with me.
Thanks for inviting me.
Yeah, about managing people, organizations, and change. And please hit like and subscribe and the bell notification so you will not miss one episode as it drops. We'll see you next time.